There's nothing better than the satisfaction from building your castle and the surrounding fortification to keep your people safe so that they can spend the whole day working, so you do not have to and you can sit your fat tushy on some big throne. But what happens if you come across a game which follows the blueprint of games like Northgard or even Settlers franchise such as Rise of an Empire, but there's still something missing? Well, on this early access review, we will go over the good, the bad, and hopefully that will help you decide if this game will be for you, or if as many others you will rather play Kingdoms and Castles.
Not your professional walkthroughs channel presents.
So what is Becastled? In case you never came across this game, well, it is an RTS slash base builder resource management game where your goal is to build and manage as much of your kingdom as you can during the day, but at night you need to protect yourself from the forces of your enemy, as you do represent the King of Sun and the enemy represents the forces of the Moon. This will represent the eternal struggle between the two forces as they try to maintain control over the lands, which brings us to the first large portion of the game: selecting the world upon which you build your castle. Now, every good RTS game will give you variations of what sorts of lands you want to work with. Some of them might be plains, some of them might be hills. You do have options, and you can select how big you want the map. Unfortunately, the game can really screw with you, not because of the layout. It is up to your creativity to deal with that issue. The issue is the allocation of resources. During my many tries to play the game in order to objectively judge its current state, I came across something which is really annoying, and that is not the fact that your stone or iron deposit can be in the biggest hellhole in the furthest reaches of the map. No, it's actually the fact that the game still lacks optimization for how many resources you can come across on a single map depending on its size. I have had maps where I had 4 deposits of stone, 1 deposit of iron, or I came across a map with 1 deposit of stone in almost the upper right corner of the world, which is really annoying considering how much more and more you will need to pay in order to capture or contest an area based on how many you already do own. Which brings us to another important point: buildings and their uses. Now you see, when you will decide to pick up the title, or if you decide to pick up the game, one factor at which people might look at is how many things or buildings you can build and what resources you do need. Well, you will require primarily wood, stone, and food, along with sandstone or gold if you prefer, and knowledge. This is where the issues might start to appear, as initially the buildings you require are all just wood based, but if you will want to upgrade them by conducting research, you will realize that if you get a bad seed of a map with insufficient resources, you will be bottlenecked the entire game, and plenty of people will not be interested in waiting for 2 miners to gather stone from only 1 available deposit when you will need it for upgrading structures, buildings, or just construction of iron mine, or upgrading your fortifications into the stone variant eventually. The game does offer interesting choices for buildings. Problem is, over my experimentation with the current status of the game, I have found out that, for example, researching the decorations for the base is completely pointless because it does not really help to improve the happiness, and the idea of mine for being able to use decorative bushes as a sort of blockade for your fortification fell through just because you cannot control where you put the fortifications, as they have predetermined allocated space, and you would need to own a space in front of the fortification as well, making certain structures completely obsolete, as your primary focus will be to make sure that your people are fed and you can keep paying your army, as if you don't, they will die. I mean, seriously, die? Why can't they just run away or something? Why do they need to die if I have an empty treasury? But yeah, speaking of, let's go to the next part, which will be a big focus for anyone who will decide to pick up the title. Combat and armies. This is unfortunately a thing where I see the biggest inconsistency and still the most bugs appear due to the early access for the game. Each game you will start with 5 soldiers who are perfectly capable of withstanding the assault of the enemy for the first night. However, as the time goes by and the enemy grows in number, so does your army, hopefully. And as you will require more and more space, you will need to start battling it out, not only with the forces of the moon, but also the wolves that are infesting the local zones, preventing your expansion. This is unfortunately one of the buggiest things in the whole game still, as if you go in with your swordsmen, yes, they will be able to get inside of the zone and start battling it out with the beast. However, if you decide to use the archers, this is where some weird line of code is, well, somewhere in the game. And I have to say, it will fuck up the entire experience, as after the archers are done killing a wolf from a range, they will run into the spot where it has been killed. So if there are 2 more wolves which can be still attacked by the archers from range, they will ignore this and rather rush into the spot, and because the zone is infested, the enemies will be able to come in and start attacking, killing your archers. This means that every encounter with the wolves has to be micromanaged more than a battle in the Total War series, as if you do not babysit your forces, they will run inside of the enemy-controlled territory and get killed rather easily. I have had also similar issues with archers doing this versus the forces of the moon. From time to time, an archer or 2 will run into the enemy forces, but it's less frequent than the issue with the wolf dens. This is something that the developer definitely needs to patch out quickly, because it gets really annoying when you know that you will need to clear out the wolves in order to get the money reward and also create a potential passage towards some resource like sheep or something else. Now, one thing which I need to also mention is that playing this game below veteran level difficulty will become boring rather quickly, as managing a small army with which you will be able to kill an enemy force maybe 2 or 3 times its size with ease will make it boring, and you will not feel the urge to manage your forces and build up your fortifications. So if you decide to pick up the game, make it at least veteran difficulty as soon as you pick up the basic in-game mechanics. Overall, you can have 4 types of units, and those are archers, swordsmen, spearsmen, or long swords. And I have not seen that much of a dramatic difference in damage output between them when it comes to battling it out, with maybe an exception of having the enemy units with handheld shields being more resistant to the archers. Recruitment of your units is costing you money, and maintaining your army will do the same. However, 1 gold mine or sunstone mine will be able to support quite the large force. Keep in mind, however, that construction or maintenance of fortification catapults or ballistas will be quite costly, so you will have to decide if you want to have more units or more catapults, which is what you will need, as playing the game passively, meaning keeping archers on the fortifications, will give you some issues, and not all of them might be shooting at the enemy even if they are in range on top of the fortifications or towers. And to my surprise, even without access to siege weapons, which the enemy tends to have in form of siege ladders, mangonels, rams, etc., they will easily break through even if you have the stone fortification. This is why I was wondering if by putting a bunch of bushes in front of the fortification would totally confuse the enemy AI, or if they would need to demolish the bushes before they get to the fortification so that the archers have time to pick off the enemy in the meantime. One strange choice which the developer has decided to go with is having access to a church, and once researched, it will allow you to raise your fallen soldiers from their death. Now, this I'm not sure if it's that much of a great choice, because as you will be able to keep upgrading your units by spending iron, you can upgrade the unit's armor, weapon, give them even a shield or fire arrows, but now the units which will die, they will become resurrected on the next day. I mean, I would rather have it so that if I lose this experienced or more armored unit, the next day I would have to recruit more units and upgrade them and not have the unit resurrected, because keep in mind that let's say you lose the unit, you recruit 2 more units, and suddenly you have 3 units with the resurrected one, so the overall upkeep cost of your army still goes up. Overall, it removes this urgency or stress of worrying if you will have strong enough force to overtake the enemy, and so this is something which the developer should maybe reconsider, if having the church would not be more useful for either having priest as a support class unit for healing or just for happiness, but not resurrection of old units without, for example, losing their entire armor upgrades because they got killed. The game is a lot of fun, especially at the start, as you do feel the urge to build up your economy and defenses, but as the game progresses into the middle or the late game, plenty of people will feel bored by the game's loop, and due to the allocation of resources mostly by the middle of the map and the edges being barren, nobody will want to continue playing the game until the map has been fully filled in. This is why I feel that the developer needs to invest into this big picture, and therefore giving us access to story campaign or some challenge scenarios. Otherwise, this game lacks the certain challenge in RTS genre, and that might result in it become one of the many games that will be eventually forgotten, and that is just unfortunate. My current score for the game is at 6 out of 10, however, due to the never-ending monotony of the game, I would suggest to anyone who might be considering getting a copy to do so during a sale, as even during the winter sale it is discounted by 20%. And you can therefore form your own opinion, as I do see a potential in this game, but it has a long way to get there. So that is going to be it for this early access review. If you want to see more, check out the playlist in the video's description or at the end of the video. And if you want to make me take a look at some other games, let me know. That is what the comment section is for. Have you played Becastled? What is your opinion about the game? What would you like me to see or maybe add, or what would you add yourself? Do let me know, and hopefully I will see you all in the comment section or at the next one. Thank you all for watching, stay safe out there, and make sure to subscribe as it helps out the channel a lot.